प्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtiki. Welcome everyone to tonight's class, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, entitled The Universal Form. And we're reading from text number 9 and text number 10, 11, because 9 does not have any purport to it. Everyone understands English? Okay. Some are from South India, so Tamil, Telugu, okay. Some are from North here, so English would be the medium to speak. Which was on the board? 9? Okay. So please repeat after me. Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Harihi Darshayam Asa Parthaya Paramam Rupamaishwaram. Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Harihi Darshayam Asa Parthaya Paramam Rupamaishwaram. Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Harihi Darsham Asa Parthaya Paramam Rupamaishwaram. Anybody likes to try chanting? It is purifying because these are the words of Parameshwara. Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Harihi Darshayam Asa Parthaya Paramam Rupamaishwaram. Okay, please repeat after me. Sanjaya Uvacha. Sanjaya said, Evam, thus, Uktva, saying, Tataha, thereafter, Rajan, O king, Mahayoga Ishvaraha, the most powerful mystic, Harihi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, Darshayam, Asa, showed, Parthaya, unto Arjun, Paramam, the divine, Rupamaishwaram, universal form. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya said, O king, having spoken thus, the Supreme Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjun. So there is no explanation purport, so I'll continue reading to text 10 and 11. Aneka Vaktra Nayanam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, Aneka Divyabharanam, Divyane Kodyatya Yudham, Divyamalambaradharam, Divyagandhanulepanam, Sarvascharya Mayam Devam, Anantam Vishwa Tomukham. Translation and purport. Arjun saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared all over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. Purport. In these two verses, the repeated use of the word many indicates that there was no limit to the number of hands, mouths, legs, and other manifestations Arjun was seeing. These manifestations were distributed throughout the universe, but by the grace of the Lord, Arjun could see them while sitting in one place. That was due to the inconceivable potency of Krishna. Mukam karoti vachalang pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam. So, what is being explained here is that Krishna has many, many mouths, many, many hands, many, many necks, bodies like that. Why does he show such a form? What is the meaning of that form? The meaning of that form is described also in the Vedic literature in the Purusha Sukta. The having hands overall, everywhere, in all the places, indicates that Hari is all pervading. There is no place where his hands are not available. He has heads and faces and eyes everywhere. There is nothing he does not know. He sees everything inside out. Now, before this verse of today, we read yesterday that in order to see this form, Krishna gave Divyam Dadami Te Chakshuhu. He gave divine eyes to Arjun to see that. And the verse from yesterday it goes as, but you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes, Bahutma mystic opulence. So, in one sense, the Virata Rupa, the universal form, is a form which you can see with divine eyes. At the moment, we have no divine eyes. We have made of Charma Chakshu. The eyes are made out of skin, water, things like that. In order to see something divine, we need to go into a deeper dimension of our eyes. Yes, we all have divine dimension in ourselves. At the moment you're sitting here and you are sitting in your identification as the gross body. And you're seeing around and you see everything as, yeah, this is the world. It's a world of stones, of bricks, of wood, external objects. It's called in Sanskrit Jagran consciousness of being awake to this material world. But there is a divine consciousness, and that is lying behind this world. You enter that divine consciousness when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep and you dream, you're going into a dimension which you are not familiar with. And most of us are pulled into that dimension without any control. But the yogi and the devotees who are chanting, when you control the mind, you can go there in your own will, by your own power. And if you have the right sukriti, right capacities, you can travel with the mind and you can see devatas, you can meet Lord Brahma. It is possible. Many yogis have done it in the past, and especially Indian tradition shows that just like Panini's grammar, it was given to him by Lord Shiva. You know the history behind Panini grammar? No? Panini was a student in the Gurukul, a brahmachari, but he was very dull-headed. He could not memorize any shlokas. So he was frustrated. All the schoolmates were memorizing Sanskrit grammar, and Sanskrit grammar is not very easy. Is it? Still, it's not easy. A time has to come that Indians find it easy because the Britishers have actually said it's too difficult. Otherwise, people used to speak Sanskrit. Sanskrit was the national language of India. From Himalayas up to Kanyakumari, everyone was speaking Sanskrit. It's not so it's difficult. You can read it, you can learn it in speaking in 3 months. I can speak Sanskrit. If you know Hindi or you know any Indian language, you can learn easily. Panini had difficulty in memorizing Sanskrit. So he just ran out of the Gurukul like young boys do. And frustrated, he went to a forest. And there he entered the Shiva temple and sat there and frustrated. And he was meditating. Om Namah Shivaya, at least he could say. And he was praying to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was very merciful. He appeared to him. He said, "My dear boy, what do you want?" He said, "Master, I'm trying to learn my shlokas, but I'm not able to memorize anything. I cannot understand. But I want to also know Sanskrit because without Sanskrit, I have no access to the scriptures, not to the knowledge. And I know it is your language. It is Devanagari. The language is not coming from this earth. It's coming from the Devalokas, Devanagari, which is spoken there in the cities. And it is your language. I'm just a human. Please give me power." So Shiva was very merciful. He said, "Okay." And he raised his damru, his drum. And he started playing. Listen carefully to the rhythm. Dum, 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 dum. And as he played the rhythm, then Panini heard lam, lidit, lum. All these different sounds manifested from the damru and it entered his ears and he started to awaken to Sanskrit. And Panini's grammar is actually categorizing all the different tensions and the words and the verbs, all in the same sounds which he heard from the Damaru of Shiva. Lut, lut, liding, lidit, because these are the sounds he heard. So Panini grammar is very famous for that, but it indicates that the divine, the divinity, which Krishna is speaking of here, is available to us. And that is the pride of Indian culture. Of course, the Britishers wanted to remove it, that we should worship the Britishers instead of Lord Shiva. So they have converted us into Jai Britisher Baba. If I worship you, I get euros and dollars. Jai Britisher Baba. Actually, I am actually not born in India. I was born in one of the British colonies. Before the conversion happened, that the Britishers started being worshipped by the Indians, our ancestors left the coast of India and went to South America. So I don't have this slave mentality of thinking Britishers are very great. My father never liked the Britishers commenting on the Vedas. They have no adhikar, he used to say. They pass stool and don't even bathe. And they're going to write on Veda. My father used to speak like that. So we are coming from that tradition before the Britishers converted us. So you can have a time warp in what Indians were before they were converted into this mentality. Of course, at present, India is growing. It's kind of relinquishing all these shackles, and India is heading forward as the leader of the world, as it used to be in the past. India is the Brahman among all the worlds. Even now, when it comes to divinity and spirituality, the world turns towards India. He's the guru of all the countries. Nobody denies that. Sanskrit tradition and all of that it's in our blood. We inherited it from our ancestors. Our ancestors were able to call Bhagavan down to earth, manifest, so that they can worship him. In the sacrifice of Maharaja Dashrath, the sages or ancestors were Swaha, Devatas appeared, and from that Charu Prasad, that sweet rice, the Lord himself was born. Who can do that? Wherever in history is it mentioned that anybody else than we could do something like that? And in recent history, if you go to Vrindavan, there is a Radha Ramanji temple, and Radha Gopal Bhatta Goswami, am I right? Oh, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He is a Shaligram Shila, a small little Shaligram, and somebody, and he used to worship Shaligram very nicely. Somebody came and donated some clothes, some attributes which are meant for a murti, for a deity. So he started thinking, what is this? Why did I get this paraphernalia for, this shringar? It doesn't fit a Shaligram. What did he give? So he started meditating. Some tears came from his eyes, and he realized probably Shaligram wants to have a form. And by his bhava, his bhakti, overnight that Shaligram turned into a Krishna Murti. It's this big. So if you go there, you can see Swayambhu, self-manifested. No Silpi ever made it. It was self-manifested from the Shaligram. And if you look carefully in the back, you find still a bowl of the Shaligram on his back. It is one of the few murtis, I think the only one, which has teeth and nails. Because generally these are not carved. So it's a small murti. And the point here is that our Indian blood, Indian tradition has this power to evoke Krishna with tremendous bhakti. And then he manifests like that. In Orchha, you have a temple of Ramji, self-manifested Ramji, by the power of Rani Kumri, Kuvar Ganesh. Yes, she had a competition with her husband, who was a Krishna Bhakta, and she was a Rama Bhakta. So that competition led her to go to Saryu River and meditate to evoke Ramachandra, and she managed. The Ramurti appeared in her lap. So these are our ancestors, so powerful and so great they were. But we have no more respect for their greatness because we have learned that Veda, what is the use of Veda? Study Microsoft Veda, study British Veda. And we are coming here, yes, it's true, India was poverty stricken till our present MP came. It changed a lot in India. But we have to also understand, just being rich and being highly educated and living in a Western country is not actually the greatness which we have inherited from our ancestors. You see, it's good to be rich. I don't object. I mean, if you have lived in poverty for 70 years and then you get rich, we also want to drive in BMWs and Mercedes, right? So, but you see, after driving, did you change? Did your character change? Do you feel more happy? No. Then you realize there's no happiness in these external happinesses. So look inside what you have inherited from the ancestors. That greatness, it's in you, right? You can end your birth. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say, Bharate bhumite manushya jalma hoilo jar, janma sarthaka kari karaparupakar. One is born in India, his inherited duty is to become Krishna conscious and spread the movement all over the world. And you are all a little bit doing it, right? Next to your job, you have some time to come to the temple and hear katha. So this is here very interesting. The divine realm, which Arjuna is looking at, was given by Krishna, but all of us have this excess. We only cannot control our dreams, right? We are not Guda Kesha, conqueror of sleep. But if you practice yoga properly, you can conquer sleep. And then you can use your dreaming state not for but this is what do we do? We dream something, we have no message, we have no importance actually. We can use that state for actually meeting divinities, like devatas or like Lord Shiva. That's called yoga. But there's a higher state than that. There is a deeper state than dreaming that's called deep sleep, in Sanskrit sushupti. And in there, you actually can meet Mahavishnu himself. Because the Vishnus, the different forms of Vishnus, they are I call that, they are facilitating these states of consciousness. Wake, dream, deep sleep. But there is a fourth one. If you want to meet Krishna directly with the flute, you have to go into transcendental ecstasy. It's called the Turiya. So here you find that Krishna is showing in his universal form that the entire universe, which all is different races and species and devatas and demons, they're all in his body. So the universe is not come into existence by some kind of a blast of a Big Bang. No, it is very much arranged. The whole Big Bang theory falls apart if you consider that in order for something to exist here, there has to be a subtle existence pattern. Just like you find that the subtle body we have, everyone is aware of that. Can it come into existence by a blast? It didn't come into existence by a blast. It was carefully planned by the parents. You inherit the genes, but you also inherit the psychology of your parents, isn't it? So it's all planned. The subtle world is the substratum, the structure for the external world. And for that reason, Krishna has made a part of the universal form called Varanashram, which is very much filiated by Westerners as the caste system. By birth, you're a Brahman. By birth, you're a Kshatriya. But it might be that that claim was there. Srila Prabhupada actually says that claim by birth, not guna karma vibhagasa, but janama karma vibhagasa, came when the Brahmins and the upper class lost their qualities, their qualifications. And it happens. When people lose their qualities, then they start to become attached to their positions. Right? You might feel it in your job also, in your work. Why did he get promotion, not me? And he's angry, he's jealous. You go and tell him, because I am working in my private time for improving myself. What are you doing in your private time? My younger brother was telling that. He said that when he got a promotion, then his fellow workers are complaining, he's getting promotion, not me. So he heard that. He went to him and said, yes, I will get a promotion, you not. What are you doing in your free time? I'm studying to get a high position, and you just drinking beer the whole day. How can you get promotion? Right? People are not willing to work for it in Kali Yuga. They're willing to steal it, to grab it. This is a sign of Kali Yuga. So now this Varanashram system, as I mentioned in the past, had been very much criticized. Europe was going into a crisis at that time. When the Britishers came around 1600, 1700, they came. Why did they come? Why could not they stay in their own country and be happy? Because they couldn't make it. They were failures, right? There was no economical resources. No money was there. And the same with the Mughals. Why do they come? If you're better, then make your country, show that you are better in your country, right? Build big palaces. No, they could not. They needed the Indians for that. The British also, they went to India and they needed their wealth. They needed to steal. It was a golden birth. Sone ki chiriya was Bharata Desha. Why was it Sone ki chiriya? Why are we not able to re-establish that? Only fools would think that we don't need a golden age. Huh? Our cultural tradition is made based on gold, Look at our marriages. When there is a marriage, how do our virgin girls dress? First of all, virginity is also a wealth. they get their social security, all gold laden, nut, call it all these things, bindis and karas, all made of gold, right? Everything is gold. It's for her social security. It's not meant to rob her by the in-laws. It is protection, social protection, right? If the husband might die or something might happen, she does need to work. So women protection is number one in Vedic culture. Of course, if you like to work, you can do. Draupadi used to work sometimes, not outside as a worker, because she's a queen. But it mentions in Mahabharata, all these big yagyas the Pandavas did, who was doing the administration? Draupadi was doing the administration, right? So it is quite a heavy job, because you have to run the entire kingdom of now Delhi. At this time it was Indraprastha. She was doing all the management there. So that's Draupadi. She was not sitting the whole day, but she was doing these kind of things. So when they came, the intruders, the colonizers, the suppressors, they presented themselves as better. But somehow or other, we are not sharp enough to question them. If you're better, what are you doing here then? Stay in your country, show that you're better, right? If you're really better, you can make it yourself. You could not. Therefore, you came to our country, and then you started to exploit us. So the first thing they did is like posing their problems in Europe. At a time, the church and the state started to become separate because the priesthood was not so pure, and there were many scandals. So the Britishers came with this idea and proposed the same on the Indians, though there was no history of that. Or the Brahmins, they're suppressing the other castes and they are not pure and this and that. And we started believing that. But if you look in our culture, yes, it is true. When you go in the market, you have to be careful what you're buying. Because Ravana also came disguised as a sadhu to kidnap Sita. So have been trained already from the Ramayana period already. Be careful when you go and find the guru or find the Brahman. There can also be Rakshasas dressed as sages, and they can cheat you. Then there is this the famous Kalanemi. If you don't know Ramayana, Kalanemi was a very great magician, and he was a Rakshasa, and he turned himself into a sage. And when Hanuman was flying to Dronachal to bring this Sanjeevani herb to revive Lakshman, he tried to stop him by alluring him into so-called Rama Bhakti. So this thing has been there. We have been trained already. If you are a little bit familiar with the traditions, that you have to be careful with the sadhu. So are there also ways to find out who's a real sadhu? This training is also given. Especially Prabhupada's books are talking a lot about how to find a real guru. Who is qualified, what is real and what is unreal, like that. So, in one sense, the Vishwarup mentioned here has an aspect, as I mentioned, in the Purusha Sukta also. It says, Brahmano Samukham Asita Bahura Janya Kritaha Uru Tadasyayad Vaishyaha Padabhyagam Sudro Ajayata. It says, from the mukha, from the face, the head of the Virata form, the Brahmanas came. Bahura Janya Kritaha. From his arms, the Kshatriyas came, Rajas. Uru Tadasyayad Vaishyaha. The business class came from the bellies, right? And Padbhyam Shudro Ajayata, the worker class came from the feet of the Virata Rupa. So now you can see how our society is now advancing. If you go for an airline, do you get a royal class? Do you get Brahmin class? No, you only get business class. And that's the highest, right? In this day and age. We're trained to be like that money is everything. Business class is the highest. Sometimes they do so-called royal class, but there is no difference between business class and royal class. So it is coming from the Virata Purusha. So the Virata Purusha is the blueprint for the creation. Yes, the creation is not a gathering of independent planets or gas clouds or space or even atoms. No, everything is connected, just like your body. Everything functions in a certain holistic system, right? If you touch here, you can feel. If you touch the foot, you can also feel that there is, right? Everything is connected through nervous system. Everywhere, the same blood is flowing. It's not that the feet don't receive the same blood as the head is receiving. The same blood is flowing there also, right? The same prana is going through the feet and also to the head. So why should you discriminate, right? But this came up, and it was a disease that what we inherited, we could not maintain. And when you don't maintain what you inherited, then you lose power. This is the reason why Bharatadesha started losing power. They lost their culture because they started interpreting in the way which was not meant. We didn't inherit this, that the blood of the feet is lower than the blood in the head, right? Or the skin of the feet is lower than the skin on your head. This is not what our scripture said. This is not what our rishi said. It is not what our ancestors said. We made it like that. Why? Because we're drinking beer, they didn't want to work for a promotion and started complaining. Why does he get promotion, me not? You know, that attitude we had. So we should be careful for that. And then somebody from outside will come and teach us, yes, you shouldn't listen. You should do as we say. You know, pack your gold and jewels and give it to us. We bring it to London where it is safe. And we did that. 72 steamers, big steamers. The evidence is coming from Patanjali group, from Ramdev Baba, were transported all Indian wealth from Delhi. 72 steamers it took. All this Kohinoor, gold, jewels, gems, pannas, mungas, everything was loaded in the ships and brought to England in the year 1947. And when Motilal Nehru opened the state treasury, he only found cockroaches. Everything was in London, and they will not bring it back. Now, then India has to start and live the rich culture. You can see 70 years of struggle. But we are very much inventive. If you have good leadership, within 15 years, you can reach the moon planet. Isn't it? That we also did. So it is a great responsibility. You can completely divorce from your tradition and start becoming like a Westerner. But then you will find that there's some lacking in you, because the body and the mind and the Atma are one unit, are functioning together. And if you kill one of them, of course, body, everyone knows you can kill it easily. Mind, if you don't give it the right food, affection, like hearing kathas, it will starve. As a matter of fact, I've seen many, many Indians, ITers, in every country in Europe. I preach mostly in Holland. You find these from Bangalore, the Bangalore Brahmins, right? They are responsible for 60% of world software. Anybody's a Bangalore Brahmin here? 60% of world software are programmed by the Bangalore Brahmins. But still, after doing so much, they look for an Indian gathering, even in a desert of Western culture. And they come to ISKCON temples, where they find something they feel, like something of their own. See, there's a call of the Atma. The Atma can only be happy when you give it the right food. That is your relationship with Krishna. Then you feel there is some satisfaction. If you deny any of them, there will be some dissatisfaction. And you can see in the outside world, there are so many clashes. People are dissatisfied, and right? So that's the message we have here. But the benefits of Varnashram, of the system, is clearly mentioned in our scriptures. If you think about it, and especially for Western society when there is so much crisis, what would be the solution to solve these kind of problems? First of all, the Varnashram system, or the Vishwarupa, the universal form, which was given by the Vedas, or at least the description of that, can solve many, many problems. First of all, the greatest thing they ever invented in the West is the quantum physics theory, right? How everything functions. And if you know something about quantum physics, then you know it's an amazing theory, yes. But what did they get it from? Where did they get the inspiration from? They got it from the Upanishads. Because the acharyas of quantum physics, if you may call them like that, Niels Bohr, Einstein, and Schrödinger, and Eisenhower, and all the other people, they were students of Bhagavad Gita and of the Upanishads. That was their source of inspiration. Where they could not find any answer in their thoughts, they went to the Upanishads to get the answers. So we can safely claim that it was the gift of the Upanishads to the world which manifested in this modern day as the quantum theory. What did quantum theory give us? Do you have any idea what quantum theory gave us to the modern world? Is it just a theory? All your electronics is based on quantum theory. It won't function if there is no quantum theory, right? So all your electronics is given by that. So, first of all, Varnashram, it corresponds to everyone's psychological nature, right? The educational failure in the modern system is that you can only be successful if you pass your tests in school. And they don't consider children's individual nature. You have to go for biology, chemistry, mathematics. Everyone has to learn the same thing. And if you fail, you're a failure in society. But Varanashram, it stresses Varana and Ashram. So Varana is your material inclination given to you by Krishna, your karma, your guna. And ashram is your spiritual development. At what stage are you? So that is considered, because it's considered different people have different types of intelligence. One can understand by hearing, one can understand by doing, one is very excellent at creating things, putting things together. Just like this Einstein, it said about him that he passed all the mathematical tests, tests in mathematics in university. He didn't succeed in anything. The other tests, of course, in high school he passed. So, but still he's considered to be the most brilliant of the scientists, right? So his intelligence is not into solving mathematical equations. His intelligence is creativity, which made him brilliant. So when that is understood, then failing for a test in math does not destroy your dream world or your future. So that's one of the things, that the mislocation of talent is being solved if you follow Varnashram. That's the one benefit we have. Then also another benefit of Varnashram, as Krishna is saying, because he gives the structure, is a holistic social body structure. That everything is connected. Every role is important. And there is no exploitation. Like I said, there is a holistic system. The blood in the feet also goes to the head. And the blood of the head also goes to the feet. So the thing is a whole unit. That's the original idea. That should also be taught like that. Not that, oh, we're from Brahman caste, therefore we're superior. Superior in what? Well, if you have spiritual culture, yes, then you're superior. But if you just name Brahman's sake and you're doing, not cultivating your swadharma, then you're not higher. That's one thing. So this holistic idea promotes dignity of all professions and interdependence upon each other. That's one thing which is important to be seen. And also, because it's karma yoga, Varanashram is based on karma yoga, that how to engage your karma, your activities, so that it becomes a yoga in the service of Krishna. See? Karmanivadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangosva vikarmani. So karma, you have the right to do your activities, but you're not entitled to the fruits of activity. So Krishna is mentioning basically Varnashram should be based on nishkama karma, that you act not for the fruits of it, but for spiritual development. Because those who work in a nishkama mood, they get spiritually enlightened. Why? Because they're not all the time meditating on the fruits. They're not hankering for enjoying in this world. They're just doing out of duty. So they are being relieved from the urge of sense gratification and enjoying the fruits. Therefore, their consciousness is being purified so that they can look in the higher benefit. Right? That's one thing. It elevates one's consciousness for spiritual cultivation. Generally, when we take birth in this world, there are the lower stages of consciousness. The lower stage is Annamaya, just living to eat. Where is food? Where is food? Annamaya consciousness. And those who are in Annamaya consciousness, they are very gross and very rude people. You find that like animals, when a lion is hunting for a deer, and it runs behind the deer, then it grabs the deer and bites it to death. And the deer often is not even dead, but they already start eating, the flesh. They don't think, oh, there is some pain here, something alive. No, it's food, right? It's running food for them. And I've seen in some countries also, you see a beautiful animal, like there is an iguana. There's an iguana in South America when I was there. And it can become very big, like 1 meter. Green, shiny. It can change even color sometimes, and the eyes are going like this. It's very impressive to see an iguana. Very bright green. And it's a vegetarian. It will go and it only eat leaves. So when I say, oh, look, an iguana, then the people say, take a gun and shoot it. Then we can eat. They don't see something beautiful, something alive. No, it's food. So this is Annamaya consciousness. It's like a Rakshasa level. Now, a little bit higher, if you evolve it, no. Something is alive also. There is prana in there. It is alive. I should be careful. You might hurt it. It might cry. There is tears also. There is emotions. To recognize that is a high level of consciousness. And guess what? Western society is on that level of consciousness only. They know, okay, you should be at least, truthful and don't bother each other. That's it. We shouldn't. You can do anything you like, just don't kill each other, right? That's Western society, civilization. So that's basically on a pranamoya level. Higher than that is that when you start to analyze what kind of feelings are there. Are all the feelings the same? No, they are not the same. There are intellectuals, there is heroism, there is business mindedness, and there is simple labor. These emotions are also there, these inclinations are also there. It means Varanashram. Varanashram is a stage called Jnanamaya stage or Manamaya stage. That is where Vedic civilization starts. Higher than that is when you are able to distinguish between body and mind and the Atma. It's called the Vijnanamaya stage. Then you enter into yoga. Higher than Varnashram is yoga. In yoga, we try to realize that we are not this body, we are not the mind, we are the Atma. And so many kriyas are there. You can do through karma yoga, through jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. There's so many other forms of yoga, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, etc., etc. This is all meant to realize that you're not the body, you're not even the mind. That means you transcend Varnashram. Varnashram is a structure in which you get facility to transcend your conditioned nature, right? Based on that. And when you realize that you are Anandamaya, Chinmaya Atma, then there is only Anandamaya. So in this way, this is one aspect meant to elevate one's consciousness from the Karma Yoga system. And especially when you're practicing Krishna consciousness and you still have some ulterior desires, some material desires. And Prabhupada mentioned, I have done half the work. I have established Krishna consciousness, but the other half will be done if you establish Varanashram. Because Varanashram is based on the level of body and mind. So if you're not right away Atma conscious, when you come into Krishna consciousness, you have some other desires also, especially marriage, sense gratification, then that has to be channelized. It cannot be boundlessly given. There are some rules for that. And these rules are found in Varanashram, like that. So it is a structure upon which you can transcend your conditioned nature, like that. Sometimes people ask that, okay, but Krishna consciousness, so much renunciation is there, but I have material desires. What should I do with that? Then follow Varnashram, right? We have everything ready. Vedic culture is complete. There is no need to add to it. It's only that we have to maybe change the shape of it gradually in time, because what is that? Kriteta dhyayatom vishnum tretayam yajatom akaihi dvapare paricharijayam kalau tadhari kirtana. In Satyuga, the process was meditation. In Treta, it became sacrifices, yajna, big yagyas. And in Dwapara, it became archa vigraha, worshipping the deity in a temple. In Kalau tadhari kirtanam. And in Kali Yuga, it became chanting Hare Krishna, the mantra. Now, it is not that in other yugas there was no mantra, there was no yajna. It was there, but it's not very prominent. Just like nowadays, nobody does Ashwamedha yagyas, Rajasuya yagyas. These still are there. The whole setup, how to do it, is still there in the scriptures. But nobody does it because the facilities for that, tremendous wealth, a king which is a religious king, these are not available anymore. So therefore that process is not being followed, the other processes. What's most effective is chanting of Hare Krishna. But throughout all these changes, the actual perfection remains the same. Self-realization and Krishna prema remains the same. But it is only practiced through another form, which is also still Vedic. It is not outside Veda. Chanting and mantras was also done in Satyuga, right? Yagyas were also done in Satyuga. And Vigrahas were also there. So like that, the actual perfection remains the same, but the form changes a little bit. So I'm seeing you're all a little bit tired. So I'll end my class here today. And if there is any questions, we can maybe discuss. I had much more to say, but I'm seeing that people just walk out. Gita class. If you have any questions, you want to hear more? You want to hear more? Oh, okay. So this is one thing of Varnashram. It raises one from Annamaya to Pranamaya to Manamaya or Jnanamaya to Vijnanamaya, seeing the difference between body and soul, and finally Anandamaya, realization of the Atma. So another thing is that There is a natural protection of economics. At present, you see, if you produce something, you make a new invention and it's successful, you have to patent it. Why do people patent things? Because of the money. But the thing is, the reason why you patent things is that patent means nobody else is allowed to copy this. I'm the only producer, and so that my income will be secure. You see, my income will be secure, and therefore you can buy patents. You know, like the car on water was invented in the 60s, 70s already, but somebody bought the patents, and unless he produces cars on water, we'll still have all these wars based on oil. You know, so these are also things. Human society as it's suffering at the moment doesn't need to suffer. Krishna already gave all the solutions. But like Gandhi said, there is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. Like that. The car, actually, the inventor of the car, water-powered car, I met him personally in Holland. He's an old man now. He's 82 years old, 83 years old. And I asked him, he told me very simply how he actually just took an ordinary, simple car and how he turned it into a water-powered car. It's very simple. Anybody could do it actually, because he's not a high-class engineer. He said that I could never go to school. I had to work to bring bread. But he was intelligent enough how to turn water into hydrogen in a car and make it power the car and run like that. So if the solution was already given in the 60s, why don't we have a water-powered society? No, because those who invested in oil want to have their money out. And so many wars have been fought because of oil, Middle East and things like that. So these people, they are responsible for those wars, and indirectly or directly. So that's one of the things, that if you have Varanashram, there is a natural protection of your income. Especially then, these Varanas are also, delineated. Yeah, like let me say, like there's a border. Like if you are a Brahman, you can only do this. You do not take up weapons and produce weapons. Maybe you are really brilliant, but you're not supposed to do that. Now, if you want to do that, you become a Kshatriya. You cannot do the Brahman activity anymore. Why? Why is this? I cannot do both. If you do both, like nowadays, it's like people, or you see these shops also, it's not like a warehouse, or it is not like a supermarket. It's all mixed, So a person who is expert at one kind of thing, like a carpenter, is expert at making chairs and furniture, and that's his income. But if others start to also do that, plus another job, like he's a leather worker, plus he's a carpenter, then the bread of the carpenter will be stolen by him. But the carpenter cannot do any leather work because he's not trained in that. So in this way, there might be some starvation. So therefore, everyone has his tasks. You're allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. You want to do that, and you give up that. You cannot do both. Because how will you otherwise spread the services, spread the incomes? That was Varnashram. Therefore, it's so strict. If you're saying, claiming to be a Brahmin, but you are selling milk, then a king might pass by that, listen, you better pay tax because you're not living like a Brahmin. You see? You're living from cow trade and milk trade. So that's a Vaishya task. So then you have to pay tax. Like that. Then you can say, oh, okay, fine. But then he loses his position as a Brahmin. Brahmin is supposed to live from teaching and studying, from doing yajnas for others and doing yajnas for themselves, right? Giving donations, accepting donations. So if you cannot maintain by that, and you take the task of a Vaishya, then you have to pay tax also. So they can complain to the king, but listen, I could not maintain by doing my duties. Therefore, I took up this task. Then the king will inquire, okay, maybe we can make some arrangements for you that you can survive as a Brahmin. And therefore, in the past, Brahmins were also maintained by the king. They were given all facilities in the Gurukuls. There were also cows given by the king. The Gurukulis, the students used to take care of the cows, learn how to do cow milking, taking care of cows, working on the land also, how to plant things. In Gurukul training, there is nothing like, oh, I will train you as a Vaishya or a Kshatriya. No. All boys are equal. No matter what Varna they are, they have to learn everything. Cooking, cleaning, obedience. It's only after 14, something like that age, when the personality starts to manifest in them, that they are guided according to their nature. But below 14, it's all the same. And basically, modern education is also like that. Up till age of 13, everyone learns the same. After that, there is a specialization. You can see that nature, that system or that biological nature has not changed. So therefore, everyone knows what to do in the Gurukul. You cannot claim, oh, I'm higher or lower. No, you're equal. But there was some way to find a distinction. It says that when a boy goes to beg, a brahmachari, and he says, Bhiksham dehi bhavati, Bhiksham dehi bhavati, they know, oh, this is a Vaishya boy. Because for him, bhiksha is the main thing, the fruit. And when he says, Dehi bhiksham bhavati, Dehi bhiksham, that means give me alms, oh dear, oh good wife, oh good mother. That means his activity is most important. He must be a kshatriya. And if he says, Bhavati bhiksham dehi, Bhavati bhiksham dehi, then he's Bhavati comes first. Oh dear mother, oh dear good woman. That means the person is important for. He must be a Brahmin boy, right? For Brahmins, the person is important. For the Kshatriyas, the activity is important, and for the Vaishya, the fruit is important. In this way, you could understand. Oh, these are the boys from the Gurukul, and he's from this background. He's from that background, like that. Interesting, huh? By the language, you find an unbroken tradition like this still in Indonesia. India was so many times run over by invaders, and they tried to destroy everything we had. But somehow or other, the devatas have protected parts of Indonesia, and there you have an unbroken tradition, Vedic tradition. You find that there are 4 languages: Brahmin dialect, Kshatriya dialect, Vaishya dialect, Shudra dialect. And everyone knows if you speak to a Brahmin, you have to adjust your language, otherwise you cannot communicate with him. You know, we have a little bit of remnants in the West that those who are very educated, philosophers, priestly people, they speak very nice language. They don't use any slang. You find also in their speech, they don't use. But if you hear a football player speaking, then it is all the time. He has nothing to say. You can see by the varna, even now, if you're a little bit intelligent, he is not a very learned person. He doesn't even know how to make one sentence properly. His speech has so many pause breaks, right? And when you hear the Vaishya speaking nowadays, is like 80% English, right? Why? Because there's so much in trade, and sometimes you see these business class people in Holland also. The way they speak is just like an American businessman. So much slang, and you have to almost translate. They only use a few Dutch words, isn't it? If you go into these circles where there's really rich business people, because there's so much dealing with a certain mentality in their association, and they're fluent at English, and it's all business words. All the words are oriented around money, profit. How do you call that? You know, like you have a white account and a black account. They have their own word for it. What is the system? How to invest? It all has to do with money. Everything is money. And then you have the administrative class, and they supposed to speak in terms of protection, not in terms of warfare, how to take care of the people. Those people are very little nowadays. Kshatriya kings, they are not there. And the people who are in power, generally, they are not of the same caliber. They don't have royal blood. But they are chosen. They're chosen by the populace, voted. And then they do whatever they like. And then the populace is not happy. Like we had this when President Bush was in power in America. Then you can call it a movement, or you can call it a society, call it Bushism. Because people started protesting that, or be dissatisfied. He doesn't speak like a president. He doesn't talk like a president. People, they don't follow anything, but they expect the leaders to be very exemplary, right? They're very proud of Kennedy, the way he spoke. It should be spoken like that. And if you don't speak, you use slang and you use low-class words, people are not satisfied because you're not a leader. A leader is supposed to be giving the example. Yad yad acharati sreshthas tat tat evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. If you want to follow somebody, then he should be a leader who giving the example. What will you follow if there is no example? Right? So therefore, when you come in a position of authority, you are bound, it is no choice, you have to. You're bound to give the example. You have to behave properly. Like that. And I guess the President of India has changed that very much, that idea. Before him, politicians were just fighting during the elections, had no good words for each other. But then, that president we have now in India, very much respected, Narendra Modi, when he started traveling all over the world, other politicians started to follow his example. Being nice, speaking properly, even if that's not their nature. But if you're in a position, you have to behave like that. We have seen that. It's also in Holland. It was a case that the president, he went to some tea shop drinking tea, and something happened and it fell on the ground. So then the waitress came to clean that. He said, no, I did that. Let me do it. Good behavior. Good behavior. All of a sudden, he started to behave properly, right? So these are all necessary. Varnashram is giving all the rules and delineations how to behave properly. Those who complain that only rules and regulations, they don't know these rules are rules as long as you don't follow them. Therefore, they are rules. If you already follow them, there is no rule in there. Why? Because it's your nature. If you are habituated to wash your hands after passing stool or urine, or of rinsing your mouth or using soap, is that a rule? No, it's not natural, normal. But kids who don't do that, who don't wash their hands after, no, ma, again, rules. I don't know the rules. You follow the rule till it becomes your nature. Then nobody complains. So it's all the learning. Learning has to do all with that. We have to practice again and again. Each time, you should not make any exception as a teacher. Every time the mistake is made, you have to correct it. Because otherwise they will say, well, last time you didn't correct me. Last time I got away with it. This time, kids are like that. So we have to be very strict as a teacher. Each time the mistake is made, you have to correct. So in this way, it spiritualizes profession, and also it gives you the right state of consciousness. Then there is also natural protection for the ecosystem. And we said the patent system, if the Vaishyas, the business class who are producing, are guided by Brahmins, guided by noble feelings, they will not produce which is nonsense, which is rubbish, like third-class products, or they will not encroach upon somebody else's livelihood. They will be learning to be satisfied with the profit they are getting, right? Like Gandhi said, there is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed, like that. So that will create sustainable economies, and which checks the what everyone is doing, and also the balances. So you can find it is all there already in the Varnashram system, only it is not properly understood. Right? There is protection for income in Varnashram system. There is also protection of the environment, of the raw materials which you need to produce. They have to be protected also. Recycling, if it is possible, you recycle things, all part of Varnashram. And especially what is very nice is character building. See? The ashrama part of the Varnashram system is age. Right? When you're young, you're a brahmachari. When you're young, you're adult, you're a grihastha. Then midlife comes, vanaprastha, and you're old, sannyas. So it takes into account that everyone is engaged, also in old age. Nowadays, if you're old, go live from your pension, go into some old age home, or if you have your house, live there and nobody cares for you. There is no engagement in old age. What do you do with old age? Old age is like a curse in modern society, right? But not in Vedic society. In Vedic society, the training started as a brahmachari. You learn to control the senses. And if you could not control the senses, then you learn to control the senses when you get married, right? When you get kids, they decide, at 2 o'clock at night, I'm getting hungry. Yeah, at 2 o'clock at night. You thought, I have a good night's rest. But you're a father and you have affection for the kid. So you won't complain and go to beat him. No, you'll be standing up, making some hot milk to feed your kid. They understand material society, material nature is not so enjoyable as I thought, because what goes in also comes out. So you have to clean him also from the other side, which is not always very fresh smell. So you realize the consequences. And by doing, you have to control your senses. And I noticed that grihasthas who have children, they come out when they are 50 plus, in a different way than grihasthas who didn't have kids, right? The grihasthas who didn't have children, they still have this non-sacrificial, a little bit egoistic attitude, like that. As soon as children come, because they have to be bending or breaking, they tend to become very flexible. And you notice it as a brahmachari, there's those grihasthas who have children, they treat you also as a child. That's the proper interaction with brahmacharis. No matter how old they are, if you are a grihastha, you're supposed to see brahmacharis as your children, like that. And brahmacharis notice that this family, they must have children, because they don't know how to deal with. And those who don't have children, they give an example. My mother, when she goes to another family with their kids, she makes a point to buy some toffees, some candies and things like that. Why? Because she knows when they used to come, they used to bring toffees and candies for us also. We were small, and the kids like, oh, auntie's coming. Oh, it means candies, like that. But if you don't have kids, and you're just grihasthas going with each other, okay, tonight we have a meeting for whatever, for satsanga, and there are no kids, there will be no buying of toffees or making sweets for the kids. See? That interaction is not there. Then when a mom goes to another person's house, she buys flowers to give, flowers and candies, like that. This is how to interact with each other. But the kids are not there, and there is no flowers can be exchanged, but if kids are there, then that anartha nivriti, that purification, is very quickly attained. And when they grow out of it, then you realize, yes, it is like that. Especially the affectionate part, the part of tolerance, the part of character of sacrifice or time for somebody else, is very much prominent if the grihastha had children. And the more children you find, the more sweeter a grihastha is actually. I notice it as a brahmachari when I look at the grihastha. More kids, more nice the grihasthas are. Less kids, the more they are career oriented, they don't sacrifice their time, and they don't have much to give, no much realization. Old is gold, they say. I say also old is gold, and I have made it complete, and modern is plastic. Old is gold, modern is plastic. We have only imitations in this day and age. We only hope we want to have the same rasa, the same happiness as our ancestors had, but we don't want to have the real thing. We want to imitate. By imitation, you won't get the real thing. You have to follow the real thing, do the real thing to get the real thing, right? I heard there is something called e-pandit nowadays. E-pandit, right? You type something, and then a pandit comes. Yes, what kind of sanskar do you want? Oh, I want this and sanskar. You type this and this and this, and he chants the mantras, and then you offer the sacrifice. There's no fire, no ghee, no nothing. You push buttons. Swaha, swaha, swaha. E-pandit, coconut swaha, some ghee swaha. There's no ghee, nothing. There's only digital. How will you ever learn? Also, this thing with screens, people don't go to school. No, they learn it. Of course, Corona was an emergency, but going to school is a discipline. Taking your bike, cold or hot, you go. You sit in the class. If your shoes are dirty, you have to clean your shoes. Or you go without shoes into school. You sit with the kids. The smells, when it rains, the personal interaction, all of that is not there just sitting in a screen, behind the screen, you see. And behind the screen, people generally learn how to type buttons, push buttons. They don't know how to write with a pen, because if you type something wrong, there is a red mark, that red line that, this spelling is not correct, So they only know how to know buttons. They don't have handwriting anymore. So all these skills are being lost by modernization. And it is a lack of character. As mobiles came in, we find that people, they have another behavior all of a sudden. When there was a telephone with a horn and numbers you push or you spin, then whenever it goes up, people take up the phone. Yes, who are you like that? But now they can see, oh, it's this person, and I put it, like the person you're calling is very busy at the moment. He's just eating out of his nose, doing nothing. But still, he puts his character. There's no character anymore. Because
we were making technology, now technology is making us.
technology is making technology, right? There are software who programs software. And we are, if you cannot follow that, then you're worthless. That's the thing. So now another thing is that training should be according to one's nature to feel some fulfillment, and Varnashram is giving that. So there are a few points more I'll discuss maybe tomorrow. I'll end here because it is 7:30. Any questions or comments? No?
Whatever you said now, I can
Mhm.
see like how the older generation, the real generation gap, and like in what extent, up to what extent.
It is necessary to learn from the past. Ancient knowledge is never lost. Just because they didn't have plastic and screens and Bluetooth and internet doesn't mean that they were more primitive. It is also good to learn from the past how to live when there is a crisis. Are you able to survive when all of a sudden one satellite would explode in space and none of your mobiles would work? Everything for the internet is cancelled because that satellite is exploded. Who arranges all of that? Are you able to survive? And if there's an attack and food shortage or the military takes over because there's a crisis and everyone goes on a ration, the supermarkets are getting emptied or locked because it's too dangerous to go there. Are you able to survive? You know how to grow your vegetables? Are you able to do you know how to filter water? Because the shops are closed, you can't buy your water. Do you know how to generate electricity? Do you know all of that? How to make a dynamo? That's the thing, you see. That all this gold, people, our ancestors, made it. Yes, but we are living in a luxury. But it doesn't mean that we should not learn the old techniques, you see. Otherwise, humanity cannot survive. So ancient knowledge is never lost. And I specifically, it's not that I'm anti-modernization or anti-technology, but we have to make a very clear line. If it pollutes the intelligence, makes it conscious go down, it is never good. No matter how sophisticated, how uncomfortable it is harmful for soul development. I'll give an example. When the Rajputs were ruling, they had this system that the king used to sit in a tula bharam, in a scale. He would sit, and in the other scale, he would put silver coins, gold coins on his birthday, and he would distribute that. So that was the system, and there's some mantras, and they have for that tula thing. It's Vedic. But then the Britishers came, and they made a chair on a platform, and under the chair was a spring system that you could see how much kg the person was weighing. So they accepted it as a gift. The kings accepted it as a gift, but they never used it because then you cannot follow the tradition anymore. So like that, there is a tradition we have in Krishna consciousness. Purity is the force, right? Purity is the force. So anything which pollutes your purity makes you weak, right? So therefore, we should be very careful in how much we use, how much to avoid, like that. It's not primitive, it's actually paying for purity nowadays. What used to be natural has become luxury. What they call it eco, what they call it ecological. Ecological simply means that you produce vegetables by cow dung. The cows goes in the field, they poop, and that's your fertilizer, right? Now it's considered to be, oh, it's eco, it's very high class, and this, yeah, it's high class, and but that was to be the system. And using chemical fertilizer is very dangerous. You see, so like that, old remains gold, even if it's cow poop, it's still gold. Like that.
Because I mean earlier, if I don't know whether you know about it, in India, most of the houses were made with the cow dung, and I have lived there for some time, and like if you stay in that house, you don't require cooler, AC. The
I've
house
heard
is
that.
so
Yes, yes,
so
yeah,
cool that you even if you sleep on the ground, you feel so good.
yeah.
But every day you need to put some water to make it more. The sleep there was like he's saying, like cow dung, if not just only a fertilizer, but also like
I've heard it before. Is that the houses they make like it's like this building. From inside, it can look like this, but outside they plaster it with cow dung. It is heat proof. It doesn't heat up in the sun so much, and when it's cold, it retains the heat inside. So it is like living in a cave where the temperature is always the same. So you don't require fans and ACs. But those if you look at the walls also, they're like half a meter thick, right? That's how it works. It's like heat insulation. In the West, we also had that called the plaggenhut in Dutch, which I think you know how you call it in English. Um, what they used to do, they had these big bars, just like these railways. They had these wooden bars to connect all these tracks. So that thick wood they would take and build a frame of a house. Also in Europe, you had that. And then in that frame, you put bars and then fill that frame with, um, no, is a word for turf. How you call that? It's like if you go to the forest and there's an old forest, there's a layer of, um, how you call that? Fermenting plants. It's very much fertile. This fertile. If you go like into a, how you call that? I call it in English. Rotten wood, whatever. No, it's generally foliage. It's leaves which fell in the seasons, and gradually it becomes, thicker. Humus is called humus. Now I got it. Yeah, humus. They fill it with humus in clay. That space, and then make a hut, right? And in this way, and inside they used to heat it up with wood, and they also used to have their cattle also. There's a room for the cow, a room for the horse, room for the pigs, because at night when it's cold, even their heat will give warmth. And people used to sleep. They used to go with a chair, or not stair, with staircase up, and sleep there on the up. That was the way to sleep, like that. So that was the old system. We had it in Europe, but there are also reasons why people give up such lifestyle, because there is fungus, there is sometimes cold, some
people are
leakages.
not ready to what was क्या बोलते हैं उसको,
See, my point is you can.
sacrifice करने को like in today's world people are like not willing to sacrifice something because it is not for their comfort. If something is not for their comfort, they don't want to sacrifice.
The thing is, you can have comforts, not having to be very expensive, and maintain the old technology. That's my point. You can have a house like this, but maintain the walls, thick walls, and you can use this cow dung and like that. Okay, we end here. Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.